President, would I be in order for a point of personal privilege?
You are in order, Senator Sorenson.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to touch base on a few things with my colleagues here in the Senate. I really appreciate the opportunity we're afforded, especially the minority, to stand up and talk about our frustrations from time to time. And rarely do I stand up and speak, but I felt like it was time for me to, because I'm kind of like a teapot, and at some point in time that steam has to be released. So that's what I'm going to do today. During the campaign process, we always hear about these promises that we're going to reach across the aisle. If we elect this person, they're going to reach across the aisle and we're going to find bipartisan legislation. And we constantly come in every year and we hear about these grand speeches, how we're going to reach across the aisle and find bipartisan legislation and find areas where we can work together on. So I was particularly surprised a few weeks ago during Funnel Week when I filed a bill late into session. And it was relatively a non-controversial bill. It was something that many states have passed. In fact, Virginia, who is also a split state, passed it 40-0 in the Senate. So when constituents all across the state, all of our constituents, not just mine, started emailing and asking for support of this bill, I was particularly surprised when a senator, who I'm not going to name because I don't believe that was his intention, but it was frustrating, started replying saying, well, you found a poor bill sponsor. You need to find somebody in the majority to sponsor this bill. And I think the exact term was legislative 101. Well, I'm sorry, in my government class, I don't remember being taught that we had to find somebody from the majority to introduce a bill. Maybe I missed that chapter, I'm not sure. But I was particularly frustrated by that. And so I thought, well, maybe, that's being misunderstood. So we had he actually had a public hearing, and we met in the back of the chamber, and he actually said in front of a group of people that, legislative 101, you find somebody from the majority party if you want to pass a bill. So I was really shocked that he would stand up and make that comment. I mean, I understand I'm in the minority, but I don't think that's something that we want to send a message back to our constituents that that's how this process works. So I was very frustrated by that, and yesterday, we watched a lot of good bills just fall by the wayside this year. A lot of bills that people want to have discussed. And yesterday we were sitting here and we heard about why we should support a bill because it was a real tearjerker in a subcommittee. Well, I've dealt with a lot of tearjerker bills, and I'd like to talk about a couple of them today. This year I introduced a bill that I call capital justice. Many of you refer to as the death penalty. I got to tell you, I have spoke to these family members all across the state that they are victims. Their children were raped and murdered, or kidnapped and murdered by pedophiles in the state. And this is a serious issue. This is something that deserves a discussion. And I watched during a press conference as a friend of mine who's a seasoned political operative well up in his eyes with tears listening to these stories. I spoke to Adonis Hill, whose daughter was bludgeoned to death, and he carries around a 3-ring binder filled with the crime scene photos because he wants to educate people what really happened. I watched as a seasoned reporter broke down in tears during after a press conference looking at these photos. This was a real tearjerker for me, and I think it's something that needed to be discussed. So I'm thinking to myself, was it not discussed because I'm in the minority party? Because maybe they got a bad bill sponsor too? It's not something I looked for. I didn't go out and seek to find them. I did an interview and they came to me and I sponsored the bill. I'm begging somebody in the majority party to pick this up next year and talk about it. I'm begging you, reach across the aisle, just like we talked about during the campaigns and when we give these grand speeches. I'm begging you to do that. Another real tearjerker for me is when we watch, has anybody here ever went out and watched a video of a baby being aborted? That's a real tearjerker. When you watch it on an ultrasound and you see the baby squirming to get away from the item that's going to suck it out and dismember it, that's a real tearjerker as well. That's something that moves me. That's a tearjerker. I think that's something that we should discuss as well. And I got to tell you, I know there's many members on your side of the aisle that have, in this building, on both sides, the House and the Senate, that talk about being pro-life. There's even a member or two of your caucus that shows up at the Iowa Right to Life rally and talks about being pro-life, I'm begging you, take the lead on this then. Reach across the aisle. There's 24 of us over here ready to join you. I mean, another real tearjerker for me is this shackling bill. I mean, I understand the testimony of women that were shackled during pregnancy. That's sad. I think that's a great bill. But in the same fashion, just as we're giving compassion to those prisoners, I think the babies need compassion as well. So I'm offering an amendment that bans state dollars from being used to facilitate or perform abortions. You know, I don't think that we should use state dollars to transport a patient or an inmate to a facility to have an abortion performed. I tell you, another tearjerker is I spoke to a deputy sheriff last night. She's the only female deputy sheriff on the department. She was forced to take an inmate to have an abortion performed. She was forced to stand there. Even though she was morally opposed to it, she was forced to stand there and watch the procedure be performed. That was a tearjerker listening to her talk to me about that as well. So I'm offering an amendment. And you know, I started thinking, maybe it's because I'm in the minority party, because this should be offered by somebody in the majority. So I'm begging you, please sponsor this amendment. It's sitting on my desk. There's 18 of us on here right now. There's 18, but I believe we have 24 members on this side that will vote for this amendment. So I'm begging you, take the lead. Do what we talk about during the campaign cycle. Do what we talk about when we have speeches at the beginning of session. Take the lead. Come and take this off my desk and sponsor it, please. You'll have 24 of us with you. Show leadership, please. I'm begging you. If you can't do that, if the pressure's too strong that you can't do that, if the pressure's too strong in your caucus, I understand that. Just join and vote with us. I would appreciate your support. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome, Senator Sorenson. The chair recognizes